Hi everyone, it's Margaret here with 60 and Me. Thank you so much for being here today. This is a delicate subject today. This topic of estrangement is one that I think is so tender and you're so vulnerable when you start talking about it. But I wanted to offer you some ideas. One of our bloggers, Marie Moran, wrote this article about estrangement and 5 ways to feel better about yourself. There's no silver bullet. There's no magical thing. Everyone's case is different. Everyone's situation is different. But I think you'll find this useful. But I wanted to start by giving you a statistic that really amazed me, and that was that 27% of people in the United States are estranged from one family member or another. Now, this story that Marie tells is about family estrangement, but it could also be estrangement from a friend or from a partner. It's just that sense of detachment. And I'm going to read you some definitions about estrangement that I think will be helpful to sort of understanding what it looks like, what it feels like. Certainly women over 60 and women that are in our community have told me repeatedly that when they're feeling this estrangement, it's like a secret. It's something that they don't want to talk about. It's something that carries a whole burden of guilt and sadness, a sense of abandonment, a sense of failure, and is hard. And so I don't want to make this a sad topic for conversation, because I think there are some things that we can do. And I think that we also have to be kind with ourselves and find some ways to rebuild. So keeping this secret of estrangement, I think, is very common with older women, especially if you're a mom and the estrangement is with a child, because you did the best you could. Yes, you may have made mistakes that you even acknowledge. Your situation was difficult, but it's a very fine line that we walk when you're starting to feel a sense of failure as a bad parent. Marie talks about a woman, her name is Kylie Aguilas, and she's a social worker. I think it's in Australia. And she defines estrangement. And I'm going to read the definition, because I think listening to the words is going to help you connect some strength, some framework to what we're talking about here with estrangement. It's a relatively new term. It's not a word that's been used that much in the past. So what is estrangement? Well, Kylie says, the condition of family estrangement involves being physically and or emotionally distanced from one or more family members by choice or the request of or decision of the other person. It is generally enacted to reduce implicit or explicit conflict. It's just a way to reduce the conflict. And it's characterized by lack of trust, lack of emotional intimacy, lack of shared values, and a belief that the resolution is highly unlikely, unnecessary, or impossible. So if you've got all those things going on, that's when you've got a challenge with estrangement. So what are the essential facets of estrangement? Well, the first thing to say is it's complicated. It's very complicated. And that sense of being ignored, being snowballed, being insulted, criticized, blamed, abandoned, all those things, all seem to have an accusation of abuse at some level. And the abuse is in the eyes of the beholder. There's always two sides to this conversation. Now, we have a group of people that often leave comments on our Facebook group or website when we do an article like this, and they always, not always, but often put forward the idea that they were the one that was abused. They were the one that was, there was a toxic relationship that they had to get away from, and that was why they made the decision to leave or cut the ties or not be in touch, because they felt it was not their responsibility, but the other person. And so that sense of entitlement, in a way you could call it that, or that sense of their own perceived fear, they just had to escape that situation. They had to get through it. So they don't want to take the energy or make the time to have a conversation about it or to try to fix it. They just want to be away from it. So that estrangement is devastating. It's heartbreaking. But in some ways, if you look at it from the other person's perspective, it's a way of protecting themselves. And it could be your way of protecting yourself too. Now, Joshua Coleman is an author who wrote the book called Rules of Estrangement. And it says, you might want to look this up, because I know people always say, what book can I read? Rules of Estrangement. And also, if you want a support group, there's, of course, Marie has written this article. You could leave a comment there. Or if you just type into Google, support groups for estranged parents, you will find a lot of help out there now. Christine Field is another person who has written articles here on 60andMe. Even if you do a search on our website for estranged parents, you'll find probably 3 or 4 videos and also lots of articles. So we're really trying to grapple with this topic. It's hard. We know it's hard. So what Maria is talking about here, there are some ways that you can deal with this and feel better. It's not going to go away if it's something that you want to be different. It's just going to be there for you. So how do you feel better? First thing she says is you've got to actually do some self-reflection. You've got to find a way of redefining and reorientating your life and your relationship with yourself as much as it is with the person that you are estranged from. Build your foundation, she says. You've got to take care of yourself. You've got to see it, as a holistic kind of approach. Now, one thing that she does talk about, which I think is a really interesting tip, and I don't know whether you can do it. I don't know, because it sounds so hard to walk in the shoes of the person from whom you are estranged. Try to honor and understand their perspective. I think that's so important, and working on this empathy muscle, she calls it, but it's basically, respecting and honoring that they have a view that's worthy of consideration. Be informed, show some insight and empathy. There's another author called Carl Pillemer who wrote a book called Fault Lines, Fractured Families and How to Mend Them. And apparently there's some really good suggestions in that book as well. So if you read Marie's article, you will see lots of different suggestions here. So the second thing she talks about is committing to self-care. Now, self-care means you taking care of yourself, whether that's meditation, whether it's treating yourself to something, whether it's just starting new activities, making new friends, doing some travel, just doing things for yourself, things that you've always wanted to do. If you're estranged from an adult child, honestly, in many cases, they are living their lives now, and it's very hard to rebuild that. But you can take care of yourself. Breathing techniques, I said meditation, walking, exercise, all these things will, give you a way to take care of yourself and implement self-care. That's the second thing that Marie talks about. Get some sleep. Do some online courses. Read some books. Do things that are things you've always wanted to do. You may not be doing them with the people that you want to do it with. It is especially hard with grandchildren. If you've got a son or a daughter who's estranged from you, who is keeping you from seeing the grandkids, that is shattering. But that's the second thing that she suggests, and only you know what those self-care things are that are going to make you feel better. I hope this isn't starting to be too depressing. Every time I do this kind of a video, I think, I wish I could just say, do this, and it's all going to be better, but it's not. It's complicated. And finding a support group, by the way, I think she talks about that later, but this is sometimes very, very helpful. Third thing she says is to explore your secret by making what she calls emotional visits. Now, basically, the point she's making here is that, you may be keeping this a secret. You may not tell people when they say to you, do you have children? You may say no, because you can't bear to even have to talk about it. Or you're keeping it a secret because you feel guilty, or you feel responsible, or you feel hurt that you just will burst into tears if someone asks you. So it's a secret. But she says, okay, if you're going to have that secret, give yourself the opportunity to make emotional visits. And this is where you basically sit down, leave judgment behind you, leave all the negative things that are, maybe on your mind, responsible for it, or you're to blame. Leave it all aside. Leave the judgment aside and cry. Just cry. Go back to a time, look at pictures, go back to a time when things were good. When you were doing the things you loved together, that before things made a turn. And sometimes those estrangement triggers can be so random. One event, one Christmas dinner, one letter, one something that just turns the whole tide of the relationship. And so, go back to that moment and just live with it. Go through the emotional visit. And then visiting your emotions, of course, is very hard, but just do it and try to move through it and then go on with the rest of your life. Just do things that you love. But give yourself the opportunity to feel now and again. Fourth thing she talks about is finding support. I don't need to talk about this because this is true. Whether you're already doing that, seeing a counselor, a therapist, it's sometimes the most helpful thing you can do. Christine Field, another person who writes for 60andMe on this topic, said that she went out for, I think it was a 2-week retreat with other people in this situation, and it helped her so much. But as I said, Google, something like estranged parents or help for estranged parents, see what you can find. It's going to be okay. The fifth thing is to awaken your gratitude, to give your psyche, your heart a rest, and just see the positive things that are in your life. Remember some of the things that you did that gave joy to someone. When you helped someone who was sick, when you gave guidance to a friend who was lost, when you just hugged someone because they were scared, when you helped a stranger, because you could. It's just find the gratitude in your day-to-day life. What you can do to feel better. Maybe these 5 things are you've tried them and it's still not working, but you're on a journey, so keep going, keep trusting in yourself that you're going to be okay. And things may turn around one day. I often get letters and emails about that. So please, go easy on yourself. Just take care and know that we are by your side here at 60andMe. We do have a Patreon supporters group, which we hold separate, like private live shows and meetings. And we have a private Facebook group where you can talk, in a more private way. We've got some other things that might help. But for now, just read the article by Marie. I think she put a really good effort into giving some help, some hope. And know that we love you so much and that you're not alone. There are so many other women in this situation, and we're all here to help each other. Okay, take really good care of yourself. Sending you lots and lots of love. Stay well and healthy and strong. Bye-bye for now.